So it has become a continuing trend ever since I got on YouTube and on the community of gaming to always kind of question me and kind of test my integrity or my knowledge or whatever I try to claim that I know or know of really or that I'm a fan of. And for a lot of you that follow me and know the type of person that I am, you realize and you do know that I'm pretty genuine. And I don't like to make things up. I really don't. I never have. I try to be as truthful and honest as I can. So today, I'm going to try to talk about a little bit about anime, right? And my stance on it and how I grew up on it. Because a lot of people want to question me about that too. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess because I'm an old fart and they don't realize that we're the bread and founders of making anime big to this day, just like we did with video games. And in that sense, they have kind of a unsung love, right? That makes them together and combines them together. What's up, guys? It's Hebot here, and I hope you like today's video. While I talk about what I'm going to do, I'm going to also show my anime collection that I have. And I want to be clear: I only buy and collect animes that I feel are deemed and that I deem worthy owning, because unfortunately, due to the dubbing and due to the fact that most of these animes, if not all, come straight from Japan, it's very expensive either to translate over them, to get them dubbed with real voice actors in America, or even at a great and good high quality picture. Whether it's on high definition Blu-ray, or standard DVD, or even in this case 4K. Right now, 4K is probably the most expensive, so you don't see many of them. So I want to start with one of the well-known old classics, and most of my anime I'm gonna say is in DVD because I did not rebuy because they are expensive. If I owned it, I don't like rebuying them because they're more expensive as you go on a higher quality format. We'll start here with Go-Go 13. It's an anime of movie that I watched in an anime theater in the city way back when I was about, I think it was 17 with or 18 with good friends of mine, Steve and Rich. Shout outs to them. And pretty much this is one of the big entries in America that was very people were fond of and talked about. He's basically a badass, James Bond type character, which they made video games. But anime harkens back all the way to 60s, 70s, maybe even further back with things like Astro Boy. Okay, Bubblegum Crisis, Gundam, Ultraman, you know, things like what you call it, Gigantor, and things like Voltron, Robotech, Gotcha Man, which is Battle of the Planets for some, and so forth and so forth. Like a lot of these new age guys that watch anime, I think that it's new and it started now because, uh, you know, anime is more prominent now. When we were doing anime, my next, here's one of my grails that I have is the Ninja Scroll series. This is volume 1. I have here volume 2. And I have here volume 3. The difference is, oh no, actually this was volume 1. I did it backwards, but that's okay. You guys get the idea. Anime, as a matter of fact, that Go-Go 13 is probably older than most of these guys that want to argue with me now on a daily basis when they talk anime, right? Because these animes are animes that I consider for men, for adults. There's adult context. They're drawn like for adults. They're violent. They have everything about them is for adults. There's no chibi little stupid faces on them. There's no comedic aspect to them. There's nothing like that. They're more serious tone in nature, and that's why I appreciate them. I think that the anime from now, although a lot of them have good stories, are kind of watered down and dumbed down, to appeal to, I guess to the little kids as well. And I feel that a lot of kids are more intelligent than they get credit for, and people don't realize that you don't really have to dumb things down. That's the problem with American cartoons, because they like to dumb them down, and I think kids are smarter than that, and they kind of feel insulting. One of my other grails here is the Fist of the North Star series, which I have here. This is newer, but this followed the classic Fist of the North Star movie, which I don't own because the original print I had got ruined, and when I tried to replace it, it's just very expensive to get it in Blu-ray. That's Volume 1 of the Fist of the North Star series. Volume 2. Volume 3. And one of the most, hardcore animes of all time that's like really, really hardcore, which I just wouldn't recommend to anybody, is basically something like The Legends of the Overfeed. It doesn't get any more adult than that. And it's a good anime, but it's not, it's just very raunchy, very straightforward, and, not really, I cannot really recommend it to just anybody to watch, especially not people with younger kids. So my next set that I have is near and dear to me too, that I really love a lot, which had also video games and comics, like most of these, is the JoJo Bizarre Adventure series. As you see here. Sorry about that. It fell down. Obviously. This has become a trend every time I do a video. For whatever fucking reason. Excuse me. Oh boy. Let's focus the camera. There we go. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's fine. And you'll see here on the side it says Volume 1. This is Volume 2. Volume 3. Volume 3 here. Volume 4. And each of these has 5 episodes or 4 episodes, I believe, of 25 minutes or so. Volume 5. And Volume 6. Love the JoJo Bizarre Adventure series. They were redone, but never got to finish them again, even though they were redone. Then I have, other entries in anime, which were more like straight, to movies, I guess you would consider. But these were an ongoing series, which I don't own the whole set because there's a lot of them, which is basically the Appleseed series. Here's one of the movies. I have the Appleseed here, one of the more recent ones, and one that I had also in HD, which was Ex Machina. Appleseed, as you guys can see there. Another set, which I consider the second best anime of all times, and I've seen a lot, but I consider this the second best anime series of all times, is none other than Gungrave, which I own in its original format when it was first released here. And this anime is incredible. That's Volume 1. This is Volume 2. Volume 3. Volume 4. Volume... No, actually, this is Volume 1, sorry. Volume 1 right here with Grave right in the cover. Beautiful cover. This is Volume 5. That cover also with Grave. And Volume 6. The actual volume, the last one was Volume 7, which was, I believe, the first one I showed you, which was this one. That's Volume 7. It's a 7-volume anime, 4 episodes in each one, about 35 minutes long. and it's fantastic. Sega made a game for the PlayStation 2. They actually made two games, and I consider them one of the greatest of all times. Second favorite of all times, of my personal favorite. And then, of course, I also have another Apple seed here, which is Alpha, which is another newer one from recent time. Okay, and then another series that was one of the grails of grails, what I consider one of the greatest movies in anime of all time, is Vampire Hunter D. This is part one. It doesn't get any more classic than this. One of the best, in my opinion, but it holds some weight to it. And then the sequel, the masterpiece. I've never seen an anime be better than the original with its sequel. In this case, I feel it is. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Don't own them Blu-ray. I really want to, but they're super expensive. Then I have another two-set movie from the creator of Gotcha Man, very well known, Tosunoku. I have the Kara series. This is called The Prophecy. It's a movie. And I believe the second one is part two, which is Revelation. An amazing anime. A little bit newer, but it's in design as far as the artwork goes. But it's very good. Very, very good. Then I have classic like Spriggan. Very amazing anime. Amazing story, sci-fi. Then I have obviously classics that you guys might be familiar with, which was Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Fantastic movie here. Amazing. Then I have Street Fighter, which was Alpha, the movie. I also have Street Fighter Alpha Generations. Another amazing movie. Another old series that was really old school, and I believe these were redone or was the continuation of the series, was Hellsing. The Hellsing series. That's volume 1. Volume 2. Volume 3. Volume 4. I believe I'm missing one volume. Couldn't find it when I took these out. But I believe it's 5 volumes. That's another classic series. Then I have one-off movies that were really from world-renowned animators, which is Sin. Another fantastic anime. And I have things like Blood, The Last Vampire. Another really amazing anime. Then I have more modern classic takes on things, like one-offs, but based on classic things, which is, for example, Dark Fury, based on the Riddick movies. This was actually a connection from 1 to Chronicles of Riddick, but the artwork was done by world-renowned animator. And I have things like The Highlander, an amazing anime. This one is called The Search for Vengeance. Then, of course, I have animes like The Devil May Cry, which actually came with one of the games when we bought it. This was volume 1. Awesome anime. I have volume 2, which I bought after. And I have volume 3. So it's a smaller part miniseries. Because animes in Japan are treated like a TV series for us here as a whole, and that's why they're broken down into chapters and parts and things like that. Then I have the classic cult anime created, more Americanized, but it was try to be anime, which is Spawn. This is, I believe, volume one, if I'm not mistaken. It was on HBO. It only lasted 3 seasons, but the third season was never aired. And I actually have the whole set. This is Spawn, volume two. And then the third season, which was never aired, but came out straight to DVD, was Spawn number 3, The Ultimate Battle. Based on more modern characters, but in anime form. Then I have things in high definition based on video games as anime as well. This is the Dante's Inferno anime. Fantastic anime as well. Then I have the new turned into movie style, but based off the original animes of Guts Rage. So this is volume one, Berserk, Sword of the Berserk, which is one of my favorite animes, and I believe, and I wholeheartedly believe, one of the greatest anime of all time. It's on every topic and every subject that everyone in the world has probably ever dealt with and knows, and it's done masterfully with writing, character build-up, artwork, atmosphere, and that's volume 3. Then I have the series like Redline with more modern artwork based on the racing series. Amazing anime. I also had Initial D, which I don't have anymore because I got rid of it because I was offered good money. I needed money at the time, which I regret, but I have the ones they did based also off of Halo. I have the one based on Bayonetta. Of course, I'm a video game channel, so I like to show things of video games because it also pertains to anime. And then the latest Final Fantasy, The King's Clave. Awesome anime, but in 3D form as well. Which I know anime for many are just based off artwork only. But still, all in all, it's based off the Final Fantasy universe. So, I also have some modern stuff of anime based off, obviously, other video games like Dead Space in anime form called The Aftermath. And I have things like Rise of the Technoverse Iron Man based off Marvel stuff in anime form. Wolverine, Volumes 1 and Volumes 2. And then I have actual animated series of Iron Man in anime form. I have Blade in anime form. And things like the X-Men. Beautiful work. Beautiful artwork, as you can see there. Let's try to focus a little bit. There you go. Now, what I consider the holy grail of all the animes I've ever watched, because I've seen, like I said, thousands of them. And I don't have a problem with the newer anime, but my biggest gripe is that a lot of them, like I said, I feel are kidified in some ways, even though they have some violence, they have racy topics, but they do little stupid little things that make them feel kind of awkward, and they don't have that adult continuity. And that's what I try to argue all the time. Not that I hate on them, like a lot of people may think. I just do not appreciate dumbing down something that's supposed to be adult focus for adults and putting humor just for the sake of putting it in there, to have it in there. Even if it's written smart, even if it's put in a smart way, I don't. I'd rather have its serious tone nature at all times. Little jokes in between characters within the anime is a different thing. But my holy grail of all holy grails, and this is definitely the original. I had the Japanese version, then I bought the American version, and that is Berserk. Sword of the Berserk. This one's called Warcry, Volume 2. Immortal Soldiers is Volume 2. Volume 3 is White Hawk. Then we have Volume 4, which is Devil's Advocate. Volume 5, which is Requited Desires. And then the last volume, which is God's Hand. This anime is the only anime that I can honestly recommend to anybody, even people that don't like anime. They have video games based off of it, multiple ones, good ones and bad ones, obviously. But it's an anime that even if you're not an anime fan, you're going to appreciate, love, and really see a different side of what you've probably been missing if you don't really know anime for so many years. So it's a good entry in the anime world. It's not really overly complicated, but it's very sophisticated in its nature, with the topics, with how it's written, with the character design, with the subjects at hand, in a fantastic world that is very grounded in reality, that we can relate in many ways. As an adult, as a teenager, as a child, because the journey that this gentleman goes through, it starts off as him as a child, teenager, young adult to a full-blown adult. This anime also has a continuing story that just came out from Crunchyroll, that they changed the art style and added more modern art style, which I don't mind, because it is a modern time to try to get the attention of the kids from now, but it's still well written because it's by the original creator. He still hasn't finished the mangas, which are the actual original source where the animes came from, which is basically a comic book and a graphic novel for Japan. There's about, I think, 20 or 36 or 32 volumes right now. He's supposed to be finishing, supposedly. It's been taking him all these years to continually finish the story. But the new ones from Crunchyroll were very good. I haven't bought them because they're expensive. I'm waiting to get a good deal on them, because the whole set for 2 seasons is basically almost $100 at this point in high definition. But the point that I wanted to do this video, here, was mainly because a lot of people don't understand that when I talk about a subject, I will only talk about that subject if I know something about the subject. If I don't know anything about the subject, then I'm not going to open my mouth on it. And anime has gone back since my era, when we were teens, right? Because of the fact that it was looked at as an underground cultural thing from Japan. It was almost even illegal to have it here and rent it out in video stores because of the nature of the content. Because even though it's considered cartoon style, the nature of the content was very serious. And so a lot of places in video stores were not allowed to carry them. So we had to go into certain places in the city where they sold underground stuff and pick them up at overly high prices. Like something like the Akira movies, or stuff like, from the creator of the Steam Boy and Spirited Away. those things were highly expensive. And for beta VHS at the time, we paid prices like 80, 90, and $100 way back when in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, for a lot of these movies and animations. So when you guys try to say that anime is now coming out just in the U.S., the only thing I can tell you is just do a little research, because to be honest with you, you're absolutely wrong. It's just starting to take off now, more mainstream. It's more part of American culture because there's more exposure to it with video games, obviously, with more cartoons on different networks, and obviously, outlets like Netflix, Crunchyroll, and even Hulu that have even a whole section with tons and tons of anime. Like, I mean, hours and hours of anime and good stuff. You but things like Death Note and Samurai Champloo, even Afro Samurai, that even though modern, they keep the essence of the original style, is more of the taste and more of the anime that I consider the top of the heap anime, the real quality anime, because it doesn't insult your intelligence. It keeps true to its essence and the nature of where it started, where it came from, where it stemmed, and it's super high quality, like the Fist of the North Star movie, or things like like I said before, Bubblegum Crisis, Neo Evangelion. I love things also like High School of the Dead. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic, and I think anime is going to keep growing, and it's wonderful to see that it's grown more and more through the years. But I just wish that a lot of the younger audiences now wouldn't act and feel and think that they know what they're talking about hardcore anime, the way that we brought it up, like Gogo 13. That anime right there is older than most of you guys that try to argue with me on social media or in my comment sections when I talk about something on my videos or on social media like Facebook or Twitter. So again, that's my anime collection. Berserk here, Sword of the Berserk, probably the greatest anime of all times, if not the greatest in many ways, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree. Even though there's a lot more out there, I'm not saying there isn't. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. And the only thing I can tell you is, the more you guys keep challenging me, like if I don't know what I'm talking about a subject, the more you inspire me to continue to prove you wrong and show you proof, because I'm not a person that talks and says things. I'm a doer. I'm the type of person that I will show you and I will do and I'll show proof. And not only will I show proof, I'll try to educate you with what I know. So, although I may not know all the animators by name, like Toshiro here for Berserk, or Tosunoku, for example, I do know the anime by titles, series, art form, artist, and where they came from. So just keep challenging me, and I will keep on doing what I gotta do, which is basically expose what I know and show you guys that you're not on my level to argue with me about something if one, you weren't there, and two, you don't have the respect to go back and do the research to know what you're talking about so that you can argue with someone that was there and can argue with you. Because if it wasn't for my generation and guys like me, anime would have never really been at the place and position that it is now, because we kept supporting it and believed in it, just like video games in a lot of ways. People thought you were crazy, an outcast. We were ostracized in many cases. We were even looked at as maybe possibly being possessed by evil spirits, by fascist religions. Guys, I love you. I hope you understand where this video is coming from and why I did it. I hope you like it. I hope you like my collection. Leave some comments and let me know what you think about my collection and how you feel about what I had to say. Thanks again for joining me. See you soon on my next video. Peace.